Spike Lee had a Netflix movie.
Yeah, and I like this movie.
It's solid. It's good.
I thought going into it, like, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, okay, so I knew it was going to be like a Vietnam movie, but I thought more of it was going to take place kind of back in Vietnam when they were actually fighting. And it kind of surprised me that it became it was like a treasure hunt movie.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah.
I actually liked that, which is like the first 2/3 of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That aspect of it, I liked all that. But then, like, once there was, like, the established bad guys and...
Well, okay.
And then it was just... And then there was, like, people hunting them.
Well, we talked about this. I could buy almost... Okay, so... the Jean Reno character.
Yeah.
I could buy...
Him trying to get in on that.
Obviously, but him actually showing up at the end, because there was like a gunfight at the end. That I was like, he wouldn't have showed up. He would have just told
his goons
to go. But I actually did kind of like that last stand that they had. Like, that was actually really entertaining because I liked how it showed those Vietnam, the guys who were in Vietnam still fucking had it.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, so the four.
How many people that were in Vietnam watched this and was like, I am not going back to Vietnam?
Oh, I'm sure. They even kind of make mention of that where they came back and they're like, man, this fucking heat just hit me. Like, they were not... I mean, they did it because it was like a pact.
Well, and they had the Vietnamese still hunting them. Like,
okay, so let's get into something that sticks out the most in this movie, for me, is the acting.
Yeah. For sure. Okay,
so the four guys, there's I forget the gentleman that played Eddie, mainly because he's a stage actor, and he also he's not in the movie that long. And but Clark Peters and I think it's Isaiah Whitlock, I think his name is. It's both of them are on The Wire. And even Isaiah Whitlock does his patented she.
Yeah.
And he, that's from The Wire. But the standout, by far, is Delroy Lindo. Mm-hmm. The guy crushes. And there are times...
He legitimately might get nominated.
He should get nominated. He was someone that... there was a certain point I was like, man, he's kind of overacting a little bit. But then I was like, no, he's doing a really good job. But then when it hits that point where they are battling the guys in Vietnam, and he goes on his own, he's giving like Shakespearean monologues to the and it's not Shakespeare, but it's the way he's just looking at the screen, and it's a solid 15-20 minutes of him walking in the woods.
Don't think it's 15-20 minutes.
It's about of screen, not of him total, but I mean, like, there's a 15-20 minute period where when they cut back to him, he's just walking. He's just walking through the jungle.
They're cutting back and forth between the two stories, and for about 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes, when they cut to him,
he's just monologuing to the camera, and he crushes. And he is. We kind of called it from the get-go, because the main storyline obviously is that this. They were basically a pack of 5 guys in the 1st Infantry in Vietnam, and there was one guy who was played by Chadwick Boseman, who also does a really good job. It's nice seeing him not play Black Panther.
I didn't know how I was going to like it, but as it went on, I liked the fact that they were, because it was like how they remembered it currently, and they were all older.
Well, it's
back,
also...
And he was the young one, because he had died, and that's how they remembered him, because he was young.
And I also thought it was refreshing, especially in a time now that everybody's like trying to de-age, or like, it's instead of just like, we'll hire other actors to play them young, or we'll spend a ton of money on technology to de-age them. Mm-hmm. I like that they were like, no, we'll just put them...
And it has its patented Spike Lee shots. And
Spike Lee... Spike Lee's dope.
Yeah.
He is so good. He's a really good director. And there were a couple times where a scene would be going, and I would lean to you and be like, "That was one take."
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of like Spielberg in that way, where it doesn't draw too much attention to itself. It's just it's kind of handheld camera. But yeah, he has his. I think there's only the one time where they're on a dolly, and it looks like the person's not moving, you know, and they're just like, or they're not walking, but the camera's coming back with them. No, Spike Lee he's good. And this is obviously, when you watch it, it's something that it came out at a time that is, I guess you would call it urgent, like it's addressing problems African Americans are having currently, but it's specifically what they draw to, and it's not really talked about. And that's another thing. Another MVP of this movie is Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
The first scene or two, I forget which one. I think is it Brother or it's that I forget the name of the song.
It's that, but yeah,
basically
the soundtrack to this movie
is Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On."
Yeah.
And when it first started, that song came on. I was like, "Oh, interesting choice," because "What's Going On" is a concept album about an African American Vietnam soldier who comes back to America and sees all the problems that are going on in America.
Yeah.
It's specifically toward like hate and racism towards the African American population. And I was like, I thought that was just gonna be the only song. I was a fitting choice. And then to see, oh no, like that's the backdrop of the movie, and it makes so much sense, obviously, in hindsight. But yeah, he it was nice. I like that album's dope, so it was nice. It was nice hearing that. So I agree with you about. I thought the best parts were.
To me, it was up until it was essentially the whole. There's a scene where they run into a minefield. To me,
that scene was awesome.
Basically, post that scene, they kind of split up, and like to me, it just wasn't as compelling anymore.
Well, it felt like I will agree with you in that sense that it felt like it started going a little bit off the rails. I didn't necessarily think it was bad, mainly because I did really like the Delroy Lindo aspect of it, because he seemed...
You kept waiting for that to happen, because every time he would have like an episode, it got worse and worse and worse.
And
then once, because he was, he just didn't trust it. He got there and he didn't like being. He wanted to be there for the gold. He didn't like...
He was... It struck me... Yeah, he wanted the gold, but it struck me more that he wanted to find Storm and Norman's body.
Yeah, well...
Chadwick Boseman...
Yeah, and he... Again, there was that... I'm sorry. I'm grouping all of that together. He was there for that reason, but he didn't want to be... Some of them were like, can you believe... Like, they were walking through, like, we're back here again.
He would have just... been airdropped to the exact spot where the body and the gold was, picked it up and gone.
Everybody else was having a good time kind of seeing each other and being on this adventure together again, and he was nuts.
Especially once his son followed him there.
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors did a really good job.
Yeah, he did do a good job.
But I agree with you in that sense. Like, it started out kind of slow. That's another kind of criticism, I guess, I'll have of this movie. In hindsight, it's like there are certain parts that may have been you could have cut out, because the movie's 2.5 hours. It's long, and the beginning's a little slow, and it's complete setup. But once they start traveling towards the goal.
Oh, see, I like the setup. I like them getting there. I liked when they went out to dinner. They met their guide. I thought it was like a perfect setup to this adventure movie, and I liked the adventure they went on. But it was like they found Storm and Norman, and they found their gold, and that happens. Surprisingly, that happened.
It did surprise
almost like halfway through.
It surprised me too. I thought it was going to be leading up to them. It was going to be this whole adventure of them finding it.
And they find all of that about halfway through. The rest of it is you've got the whole minefield situation and how that's still.
Well, the moment
They introduced the French.
The French woman, and then Seppo, and the guy who plays Richard Jewell, and he was also in BlacKkKlansman. Is it Paul Walter Hauser, I believe his name is. Mm-hmm. They were like, they go around and they basically find hidden mines that have been there since Vietnam.
Yeah. And
once they addressed that, it was like Chekhov's gun. Yeah. You knew that was going to come back.
Yeah.
And that being said, that scene where Eddie is blown up, and that didn't surprise me because it shows him like creeping back, and I was like,
the way that they were building tension with the conversation and how it was being shot, you knew. I mean, we both called it. We were like, he's about to blow up. You could just tell it by how it was happening, and it happens. And you're like, damn. Yeah. And then, gets the tension that's built around that. It's like all of a sudden, because it's kind of like this. It gets real quick.
Because all of a sudden someone's... And the other thing is, they're doing this...
It's mostly a light... Up until that point, the rest of them are kind of jovial. Like, they're kind of lighthearted. Besides Lindo.
Delroy Lindo, yeah.
He's, like, very intense. And every time he starts... they're doing a good job showing the PTSD. Like, how
his is more extreme, and because it was more extreme, at a certain point you start to go... There is something. There's a reason.
Once things start happening, you go, he's not gonna last. Like, not that he's gonna die, but he's gonna like hop back into this.
And he does.
Yeah, this mode.
Which I like that. It was a little bit of foreshadowing where they all talked about they hated the John Rambo movie. Mm-hmm. They were like, that is bullshit. And Delroy Lindo was like, I like those movies. And there's that one scene where he straight Rambo's some Vietnamese people because they're ambushed, but he kills like 3 or 4 people quick.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's because he
was like already there.
He was, well, that's even before even Eddie is blown up.
Yeah.
Because remember they find the gun and immediately he starts.
Well, no, they hear somebody in the woods.
Well, that scene
and the guy that was trying to sell the chicken.
That was a scene I leaned to you where I was like, that Spike Lee is great at filming a scene,
confrontation,
shouting confrontation, and that's because he kept saying like, no, like leave me alone, and then he explodes. God, Delroy Lindo crushes in this movie.
Yeah,
the more I think about this movie, he does. But that scene when they're going back to the minefield, when Jonathan Major steps on the mine and he's like, guys. What would you say, about 5 minutes? And it's Delroy Lindo like directing how to get him off.
Well, they trigger. They go, we've done this before.
Yeah, and that scene, that was. I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot of movies this year so far, but that for me that was the best scene in the movie. I thought it was incredibly nerve-wracking, and it was brilliantly made because I do believe the majority of that was one take. Mm-hmm. And Delroy Lindo, like you said, he snaps back straight to Vietnam. Like he is in it, and he's telling them all what to do, and then to see him switch, and like once it's all done, to immediately say tie them up.
Yeah,
he's talking because the French, the mine.
Yeah, he thinks they're
in it for that they're following them for the gold.
Yeah,
and it's like man, like that. I will agree. That's where I do feel like it was a little bit overly long, or they just didn't know. I kind of wish the movie had led up to them finding the gold, and then maybe some problems coming back. But I also understand what Spike Lee was doing, which was like no matter what, there's always someone above you trying to rip you off, which Jean Reno was trying to do.
Yeah,
because what was it, $20 million in gold?
Yeah, it was 17. I think 17 million. Was their estimate? Right.
And that's a lot of fucking money. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I liked this movie for that, the adventure aspect of it, the acting. Spike Lee is always on point, and then of course Marvin Gaye's soundtrack. So like overall, I would give it like a B, teetering on a B.
Not to mention, I mean, there's that whole aspect of it, but I think he does a really good job of telling stories of, specifically, Black Americans in Vietnam.
Well, that goes. I addressed it earlier, which is
black. It's 11, and I love that he gave the stat because it was like 11% of America
at the time
were African Americans, and
34% of the people in Vietnam
were African Americans.
It's like that. That shouldn't be the case.
And all these people that were of draft age just got passed over because of wealth or who their daddies or the fact they were in college or because you had kids just signing up for college just to
get out. And that aspect of it I did appreciate because they don't. And Spike Lee at the beginning he does use a lot of real footage, and it's it's Muhammad Ali's whole kind of speech where he's talking about he's like, and he goes, why do I need to go fight these Vietnamese people? They never called me the N-word. They've never been racially prejudiced against me. Basically saying like, that's not the enemy that I want to be fighting.
Yeah.
But it's something that you don't see a lot especially in film, is like the stories of African Americans in Vietnam, and especially because not only are they dealing with the traumatic aspect of it, of war, it's much like Marvin Gaye's album, which is like what they came back to. They mention that in the movie too. I mean, they're being nice and jovial at the beginning, but they're like, man, we came back and they were calling us baby killers.
Yeah. On top of already having to deal with being
racial prejudice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a story that I'm glad, it's something I'm glad was told, but overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, but it didn't hit me like Do the Right Thing I love. And there's other Spike Lee movies that I really enjoy as well. But this one, while good, it didn't hit me like that. So like for that I would give it like a B or a B+.
I'm gonna go B+. Again, I think the first, and I hate saying it because the message that he's trying to get across conveys over the whole movie, but the best parts of the movie is the first two,
it's the adventure of them trying to find the gold and the body. That was another thing, because the way Delroy Lindo acted, specifically how he was talking about Storm and Norman, you knew something happened there.
Yeah, and I thought that reveal possibly could have been done better, or I wish there possibly was more to it.
That being said, I like the reconciliation scene.
That
scene was extremely powerful, I thought.
It was, because he's having to live with the fact, like, this is on me.
Yeah.
And when it actually wasn't, I almost, with how much you felt he was carrying, and it's not to take away from what he was carrying around, but just the way the character was, you felt like he was possibly carrying around. My first thought when I saw you, I was like, did he were they in a situation?
That was what I first thought.
Were they in a situation or something where he was injured and Storm and Norman was like, you have to get them out. Like, or you gotta.
I thought it was gonna be like he left him behind.
And that's what I thought, and it wasn't necessary. That wasn't the case. It was just the fact that he was
completely accidental.
Yeah.
And like I said, that scene was incredibly powerful. Where Chadwick Boseman, it's in a vision, because Delroy Lindo's borderline hallucinating, because he's been snake bit, but he's also been that scene that was the thing that came out of nowhere for me. But you sat there and he's sitting there talking to Chadwick Boseman, and to see Chadwick Boseman go, it was an accident.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't need to feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually nice to see that closure for Delroy.
Oh, for sure.
Because it was complete, he just breaks down.
And so, yeah, when that comes up and you see him and they've caught him and he's digging and he's like, you do what you gotta do. Mm-hmm. I deserve this.
Man, I still, I didn't enjoy that part of the movie as much.
Again, I told you, but the point he's trying to get across for the whole movie, you have to watch the whole movie to get the whole gist of it.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, the most entertaining, the most enjoyable.
Yeah, but it's also the case of, like, not every movie is going to be entertaining and enjoyable to watch. And in particular with some of the themes that they're dealing with here, it's just not good.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, the shootout scene at the end was kind of cool, but it's like, so they went to, I was convinced we were going to get some, like, Apocalypse Now, we were going to have
Oh, you thought they were going to run into some Vietnam soldier that was still there?
Or just some tribe that was up there, like, cooking up cows and like...
You said that, you were like, I wonder if they'll see, like, wait a second, Dennis Hopper's there.
Dennis Hopper's
still there. God. But yeah, I still would recommend this movie, specifically because it's one of the best movies that's come out in the past couple months.
I also really liked, I mean, we talked about Spike Lee being really good. I just loved how he shot Vietnam. Like,
yeah, no, that felt real. That was, and I kind of like it. I want to see him do like he did Miracle at Santa Ana, which was a World War II movie. Mm-hmm. But I would like to see him do more war movies because
I don't even know about war movies. I think he's a really he can do whatever he wants.
He's just talented as hell. But yeah, I agree. But yeah, it's on Netflix. Check it out because there's not many other movies. This is a new movie. Watch it, support it, and it is something that is
it's worth a watch.
It's
for sure.
Definitely worth the watch, and it's something that's definitely related to what's going on in America right now, and it gives you an idea of what African Americans were going through during and after Vietnam, which I truly did appreciate in this movie. So, but that was our take on Da 5 Bloods. Watch it. I would recommend it. I'd also recommend listening to What's Going On by Marvin Gaye again because he just crushes. And but yeah, we will see you next time with Our Take. So see ya.